Hello and welcome to World News on the Papyrus Global TV. I am Christiana Babayo. Before we begin, here are the headlines. UN warns of terrorism in Sahel, says it poses a growing global threat. Tanzania president warns political violence could jeopardize aid and funding. Senegal launches National Gold Trading Center to bring order to illegal exports. Eswatini confirms receipt of $5.1 million for accepting US deportees. Interpol-led operation arrests 83 suspects in African terrorism financing crackdown. Popular American rapper Nicki Minaj supports Trump's claim of Christian persecution in Nigeria. DRC extends 6-month ban on mineral trade in eastern conflict zones. And now the news in full. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has sounded a dire warning about the scale and risk of terrorism in Africa's Sahel region, calling it not just a regional problem but a mounting global menace. The Sahel, spanning multiple countries including Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, marks one of the world's most volatile hotspots. Guterres pointed to long-standing structural weaknesses in the region, poverty, weak institutions and climate pressures that extremist groups exploit to entrench violence and mobilize new recruits. He emphasized that 5 of the 10 countries most affected by terrorism globally are in the Sahel, and that the region now accounts for 19% of global terrorist attacks and a disproportionate share of terrorism-related casualties. The UN chief also warned of the dire humanitarian impact. According to his assessment, millions are displaced. Around 4 million people have been uprooted across Burkina Faso, Mali, and neighboring states. Many public services, including more than 14,800 schools and over 900 health facilities, have also been closed or disrupted amid the violence. As part of his appeal, Guterres called for 3 urgent priorities: a unified regional security response which entails stronger intelligence sharing and coordinated action among Sahel and West African states, fully funded humanitarian appeals which will allow greater international financial commitment to support displaced populations and rebuild basic services, and a coherent development strategy to tackle the root causes of extremism by investing in development jobs and the social contract. Tanzania's president Samia Suluhu Hassan has cautioned that the recent post-election unrest could undermine the country's future with international donors and development partners. She made the remarks during her minister's swearing-in, raising concern that the government's physical reliance on external support might be at risk if the country's political stability is questioned. President Hassan emphasized the need for her administration to pivot towards domestic resource mobilization, highlighting that aid currently makes up a substantial portion of Tanzania's public revenue. She urged government officials to raise more resources within the country rather than lean on foreign funding. The political tension follows a disputed election in which opposition leaders have raised serious accusations and protests broke out across several regions. The turmoil risks damaging Tanzania's credit rating and could complicate access to favorable loans and development grants as international stakeholders reassess political risk. In a bold move to curb burgeoning gold smuggling, Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has ordered the establishment of a national gold trading center to provide more rigorous state control over gold production and export. The decision comes in response to alarming data from a Swiss NGO which found that Senegal lost between 36 to 41 tons of gold through illegal channels between 2013 to 2022, representing billions of dollars in uncollected revenue. In tandem with its efforts, the government has committed to reforming its mining sector via a revised mining code, expected to be completed and presented by year-end. The reforms would include restructuring state-owned mining enterprises to better manage production and boost transparency. Gold remains one of Senegal's most important mineral exports, and this reform is positioned as part of a broader strategy to ensure the sector contributes more directly and fairly to national development. The government of Eswatini has admitted to receiving $5.1 million from the United States as compensation for accepting deported non-citizens under a U.S. policy. The funds were paid following Eswatini's agreement to host third country nationals deporting from the U.S. According to Eswatini officials, the payment was made to the National Disaster Management Agency through though the funds have not yet been formally allocated to the agency. This has raised questions about transparency and the legal basis for how the money will be used. At least 15 deportees have been transferred to Eswatini under the agreement, coming from countries such as Cuba, Laos, Yemen, Vietnam, and Jamaica. Their arrival has sparked legal challenges. Civil rights lawyers argue that the arrangement was not transparent and may run afoul of constitutional norms because public consultations were insufficient. The controversy surrounding this deal underscores broader ethical and governance debates about migration, deportation practices, and how states manage relationships between foreign policy, security, and human rights. We will now go on a short break, and when we come back, the news will continue. Stay tuned.
The Papyrus Global, we don't just cover events, we create cinematic experiences. From red carpets to birthdays, gala dinners, and your fairy tale weddings, we bring your moments to life with high-tech precision. Our gadgets are smarter, our lenses sharper, and our team simply world-class. Trust the Papyrus Global to tell your story in the boldest, brightest way possible.
Welcome back, and now the news will continue. In a landmark Pan-African law enforcement effort, Interpol, working in partnership with Afripol, has confirmed the arrest of 83 individuals across 6 countries in late 2025 as part of Operation Catalyst, a coordinated mission to dismantle financing networks that underpin terrorism. The arrests span a variety of crimes. 21 suspects were linked to terrorism, while others were tied to financial fraud, money laundering, cyber-enabled scams, and the misuse of virtual assets. Authorities screened over 15,000 persons of interest, leading to the identification of 160 individuals under the investigation. And they reportedly uncovered as much as $260 million in financial flows, both in traditional and virtual currencies. Intervening agencies seized roughly $600,000 during the operation, though the full scope of the assets under investigation is broader. One major case came from Angola, where 25 individuals of various nationalities were detained amid investigations into formal value transfer systems suspected of being used for laundering terrorist funds. Authorities also seized hundreds of thousands of dollars, computers, and mobile devices. Interpol and Afripol said the operation represents an unprecedented synergy between National Financial Crimes Unit, cybercrime investigators, and counter-terrorism forces. Their joint intelligence work, bolstered by cyber data from international private sector partners, appears to have disrupted several sophisticated and cross-border funding pipelines. Award-winning rapper Nicki Minaj has expressed support for President Donald Trump's claim that Christians in Nigeria are being targeted. Speaking at a U.S. Embassy event in New York, Minaj said churches are being burnt and families torn apart, emphasizing that her call for protection is about justice and unity rather than division. The remarks came amid ongoing insecurity in Nigeria, where recent attacks have included a deadly assault on a church in Kwara State and the abduction of 25 schoolgirls in Kebbi, 2 of whom escaped. Both Muslims and Christians have been victims of violence, and jihadist groups like ISWAP continue to operate in northern and eastern regions. Analysts note that many conflicts in Nigeria are also driven by inter-ethnic tensions and disputes over resources. Minaj, who has previously spoken about her Christian faith, praised Trump for prioritizing the issue and urged global attention to the plight of victims. She also acknowledged Nigeria's deep faith traditions and her dedicated fan base in the country. The Democratic Republic of Congo (DRC) has extended a 6-month ban on the trade of minerals from 38 artisanal mining sites in its volatile eastern provinces, according to a recent Mines Ministry order. The government said the extension is necessary because revenue from these mining sites continues to fund armed groups in North and South Kivu. These minerals include tin, tantalum, and tungsten, extracted from ores such as cassiterite, coltan, which contains tantalum, and wolframite. The extended prohibition adds significant compliance compliance pressure on global supply chains. Buyers in industries like electronics, automotive, and aerospace, which depend on tin, tantalum, and tungsten, must now increase efforts to ensure the minerals they source are not tied to conflict financing. The ban affects 38 artisanal mining sites, primarily in Masisi Territory, North Kivu, and Kahele Territory, South Kivu. These locations are known for their rich mineral deposits, but they are also deeply contested by armed groups, including the M23 rebels who have expanded their control in recent months. The east of the DRC remains one of the world's most conflict-ridden zones. Rebel groups like the M23, supported by some regional actors, have taken control of strategic areas, intensifying violence, displacement, and instability. Critics argue that illegal mineral exports significantly contribute to this ongoing conflict. A UN report from December 2024 found that revenue from smuggled minerals helps sustain armed militias and underpins a war economy. In the ministry's order, further oversight mechanisms are proposed. The Ministry of Mines may carry out independent audits of the restricted mining sites, potentially involving international bodies such as the United Nations and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. This move is intended to ensure that no mineral from these conflict zones are traded or exported illicitly. The extension has implications for global corporations that source critical minerals from the DRC. By reinforcing the ban, the government is sending a clear message. Supply chains must be transparent and conflict-free. International buyers will likely face increased scrutiny regarding the origins of their mineral supplies. And that's all we have on the world news on Papyrus Global TV. I am Christiana Barbayo. Thanks for joining us.